हेलो दोस्तों, स्वागत है आप सभी का हमारे चैनल इग्नो सेंटर पर। तो दोस्तों, आज हम जो टॉपिक डील करने जा रहे हैं वो आपका सीता रहेगा, जिनको टूर दत्त ने लिखा है। 1856 टू 1877 में इंडियन बंगाली पोइट थे वो। तो दोस्तों, आज हम आपको सीता का फुल समरी ब्रीफ में सुनाएंगे ये वीडियो में। तो दोस्तों, बने रहें हमारे चैनल के साथ, और अगर आप हमारे चैनल के साथ नए जुड़े हैं तो ज़रूर चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर लीजिएगा, ताकि आपको नोटिफिकेशन मिल जाए जब हम अपना नेक्स्ट वीडियो अपलोड करें। तो दोस्तों, बढ़ते हैं। 3 happy children in a darkened room. What do they gaze on with wide open eyes? A dense forest where no sunbeam pries, and in its center a clear spot. There bloom gigantic flowers on creepers that embrace tall trees. There in a quiet looked lake, the wild swan glide there, whirring from the brake. The peacock springs their heads of wild deer race. Their patches gleam with yellow waving grain. Their blue smoke from strange altars rises light. There dwells in peace the poet and Charolite. But who is this fair lady? Not in vain she weeps, for lo, at every tear she. The peacock springs their heads of wild deer races. The patches gleam with yellow waving grain. The blue smoke from strange altars rises light. There dwells in peace the poet and right. But who is this fair lady? Not in vain she wept, for lo, at every tear she shed. Tear from 3 pairs of young eye fall amain, and bowed in sorrow are the 3 young head. It is an old story, and the lay which has evoked sad Sita from the past is by a mother sung. This hushed at last and melts the picture away from their slight away. Yet shall they dream of it until the day when shall those children by their mother's side gather me as erst at eventide. So friend, I think the paragraph was repeated from here, I think. So hope it doesn't matter, as during typing many faults come, and this was a technical fault. So hope it doesn't mind to you. So let's begin with the topic about the poet. Turu Dutt was a pioneer in the history of Indian literature. She came from a family known for its aristocracy, progressive Western outlook, and literary learnings. On the death of her brother at the age of 14, the family left to settle in Europe, where they spent 4 years before the failing health of Taur and her sister Aru complete, compelled the Dutch to return to Calcutta. Perhaps a performation of her approaching end made Taur take up a lot of intense literary activities, writing in both English and French. She died at the age of 21 in 1877 after suffering from tuberculosis. In her writing, she retained her persona and communicated her emotions effectively without being melodramatic. So, friend, we just see about the poet, and now we deal with brief summary of the poem. In this poem, Turu Dutt narrates the story of Sita from Indian mythology. The poem is set amid a beautiful and serene dense forest. A mother tells her children the story of Sita as she puts them to bed. Sita has been abandoned by her husband and takes shelter in Valmiki's hermitage. She is deep anguish, and as the children listen to the story, they are so moved by her sorrow that they weep at her troubles. After finishing the tale, the mother hugs her children and pacifies them. Line wise analyze. So, friend, after the summary, you have to write the line by summary. So, line 1 and 2. The poem begins with the image of three children in a darkened room. It's bedtime, and the children are being told a story by the mother. The story comes alive with the mother narration, and the children are all attention. Wide open eyes means they are awake. The poet wonders what is it that they listening to with much interest and involvement. Line 3 and 4. There is a dense forest so filled with trees that no sunbeams can penetrate the thick canopy of vegetation and enter the forest. The word dense is used twice to emphasize the density of the forest. In the center of the forest, there is a clear area. Here there are blooms. This line implies that a certain area in the center of the forest has been cleared. Line 5 and 6. There are blooming flowers on creepers twining around tall trees. There is also a lake, the water of which are clear. A beautiful picture of nature has been painted in this line. Line 7 and 8. Swans glide in the water of the lake. Wearing from the break is a reference from Alexander Pope poem Windsor Forest. They are springing peacock and racing there we find life and activity depicting on the line. Line 9 and 10. Crops have been grown on patches of land indicating a settlement. Smoke and altars is a reference to the hermitage of Valmikis where Sita sought shelter after being abandoned by her husband Ram. Line 11 and 12. The forest is a pleasant and peaceful place to live, and the poet feels it is like a heaven for poet to spend time in tranquility. After dwelling on the forest, the poem moves on to describe a beautiful lady. The poet wonders who this fair lady. Line 13 and 14. The lady is in pain and weeping. The three children listening to the tale also weep at the sorrow of Sita. The lady in the story, they are troubled by her troubles and their tender hearts at her suffering. The anguish of Sita is juxtaposed against the serenity of the atmosphere. Line 15 and 16. The young children bow their heads in sorrow at the sad plight of Sita. The story is an old one, handed down from generation to generation. Line 17 and 18. This legendary story of Sita has been told by a mother to her three children. There is a long pause between the two lines. The narration of the story gets over. Line 19 and 20. The picture of sorrowful and grieving Sita fades from their sight, yet during the night the children dream of Sita. The story has made a lasting impact on them and will stay with them. Line 21 and 22. The mother draws her children near and hugs them, having lost both her beloved sibling at a young age. The line expresses Tao's deep wish of possible reunion with them. Poem highlights. So friends, till there your summary analysis was finished. First you have to write about the poet, then you can begin with your analysis. And the summary was only for a brief knowledge what the poet is about to tell. So here are some poem highlights. In Sita, a poem of 22 lines, a mother, while putting her children to bed, and relate the story of Sita to them. Point 2. The children are so absorbed by the story that they weep at Sita's trouble. Point 3. The beauty of the forest is described in the initial line. Point 4. Sita was abandoned by her husband and she sought refuge in the forest in Valmiki hermitage. Point 5. The mother pacifies her children on conclusion of the narration. Point 6. The story has made a deep impact on the children and would continue to remain with them. Point 7. There are in some resemblance between the poem and the poet's life. Tau adored Sita and though of her as a touching and lovable heroine. The three children in the poem could be Taur, her brother Abzu, and sister Aru. She derived her interest in Indian mythology from her mother. So, friend, who is the poem about 2009? The poem is about Sita, who was abandoned by her husband and sought shelter in the hermitage of Valmiki. These points make you more understanding of the poem. Number 2. How many children listen to the story? 3 children listen to the story. Number 3. Who dwells in peace in forest? 2018. The poet Anchorite dwells in peace in the forest. What is the color of the swan which are seen gliding in the lake? The swan gliding on the lake are white in color. Who is the narrator of the story? The narrator of the story is the mother of the 3 children who are listening to the story. And number 6. What prevents the sunlight from entering the place? The forest is dense, full of thick forest. What prevents the sunlight from entering the places? The forest is dense, full of thick vegetation which prevents sunbeams from penetrating the canopy of leaves and branches and entering the places. Point 7. Name the birds and animals mentioned in the poem. The birds and animals mentioned in the poem are swan, peacock, and deer. Where are the 3 happy children sitting? 2017 and 18. The 3 happy children are sitting in a dark room ready to hear a bedtime story. 9. Whose head are bowed in sorrow? 2016. The heads of the three children are bound in sorrow as they listen to the story of Sita and her sorrows. Question number 10. What does the poet remember when she listened to the story? When the poet listened to the story, she is reminded of her brother Abzu and sister Aru, who passed away at a very young age in life. Who is Turu Dutt? Turu Dutt was an Indian poet who produced some outstanding work before her ultimately death at the age of 21. She wrote in English and French. Name any one of the great work of Turu Dutt. Our Kasuran Tree, published in 1881, is one of the most popular poems in modern Indian literature. What is the base of the poem Sita? The base of the poem Sita is taken from the epic Ramayana by Valmiki. A pregnant Sita is abandoned by her husband and takes refuge in the hermit of Valmiki in the further narrate and the story of Sita. What is the poem that fascinates the reader most? The description of nature in all its pristine glory hold the attention of the reader and fascinate them. Who are the listener of the story Sita? The three children are the listener of the story Sita. Who are the three children? The three children are Tor, her brother Abzu, and her sister Aru. Who was telling them the story of Sita 2016, or who is recounting the tale of Sita in Turu Dutt poem? The mother of the three children is recounting the tale of Sita in Turu Dutt poem. 21. Three pair of your eyes. Whose eyes are referred here? The I refer to here are those of the three children listening to the story being told by their mother. Why were they weeping? They were weeping as they were moved by Sita's tears and her suffering. What was gliding in the lake? The white swan were gliding in the lake. What was raised in the forest? Herds of wild deer were racing in the forest. What were the peacock doing there in the forest? The peacock were springing in the forest. What were Sita? Where was Sita residing? Sita was residing in the hermitage of Valmiki. What does the poet long for? The poet longs for her childhood days and the companionship of her brother and sister who are dead. 99. Who is the poet Arcolite referred to in the poem Sita 2016? The poet Arcolite referred to Valmiki. From where does the blue smoke rises in Sita 2018? The blue smoke rises from the earth in Valmiki Hermitage. What mythic past does Datta try to conjure in her poem? The mythic past that Datta tries to conjure in her poem is the age-old story of Sita in her second exile after being abandoned by her husband. To understand the poem easily, I have divided it into three parts. So friend, here are some of the notes which I have to read it for you. So hope you wait for a few more minutes. In the first para, the three happy children poet Taur is referring to is none other than Taur herself and Abzu and Aru, her sibling. All three of them are in a dark room and have their eyes wide open, and they are immense in the story that's being told. The second part of the poem mainly concentrates on the story that being told on the main character of the poem. The story is about Sita of Ramayana and her life in the dense forest after her husband Rama left her alone to survive. The story first explains the beauty of forest, the birds and animals who live there. Then the story talks about Sita who is crying alone in the forest, and when those three children heard about it, they started crying for Sita. In the third para, it reveals who is telling the story. It is none other than Toad's mother who had pick up an old tale from Ramayana about Sita, which is a sad story about her hardship, and those three children get emotional hearing this. Finally, in end, after telling the story, the mother gathered her three children and pacifies them. So, friends, hope this was the brief knowledge that I can provide you. And if it was helpful for you, please give comment on the video and don't forget to press the subscription bell so that you never miss the update, and press a thumbs on the video so that we get more encouraged to make these types of video. Thank you.